aquariums are designed around a family of clownfish. So we're going to talk through what their behaviors are, what to look out for and what not to worry about basically. Up front, our fish are aquacultured, meaning they're coming out of a laboratory, out of a farm. So they're not used to the beautiful three-dimensional reef and coral habitat we're putting them into. When you first put them in there, they're going to be shy. They are always juvenile. We only sell baby clownfish. So give them time to settle in before you panic about their swimming behaviors. So with the clownfish species selection, we recommend different numbers for different sized aquariums. We've got small, medium and large. But really, the clownfish should live as a pair. So for all species of clownfish, we do only recommend a pair of clownfish per aquarium, except for the Nemo, the Ocellaris clownfish, where we've researched and we've found high survival rates when you follow our recommended stocking levels, which is 3 for the small size and 4 clownfish in the medium and large sized aquariums. But ultimately, you'll eventually end up with a pair of clownfish, and they live for about 6 to 10 years, a healthy pair. And over time, obviously you will have some mortality, they will die off. Now, when we add our fish to the tank, the juveniles are added at the same time at the start. So with all these things considered and how friendly they are, that's how we've come up with our recommended stocking levels. So it's not for every aquarium, it's only for the Living Oceans aquarium with the three-dimensional reef structure and the sizes that we have. So it's just general rules. Now, as cute as clownfish are, they can actually be a little bit nasty to each other and other fish, and even your hand when you put them in the tank, especially once I've established their social dynamics. Super interesting how they live. When you put them into your tank, they're going to be juveniles. So they're basically known as juvenile males, but they haven't really developed their sexual organs. Now they'll actually have social dynamics, bickering each other, fighting each other, trying to work out who's going to become mum and who's going to be dad. So the biggest one will grow into the female, and the second biggest one will grow into the dad. They'll form a pair, and they'll work together to control the other fish in the aquarium. That's why they might even nip at your hands when you put them in the tank. That's just part of their natural sort of defensive mechanisms and how they maintain a patch of reef in the ocean. As the pair mature, you'll actually find they'll start to prepare a nest in the reef, normally underneath the living blocks reef. They'll pick at it. You'll see the mum and the dad doing different things, kicking sand around, so it might be a bit annoying. They're digging holes, but eventually you'll probably even start finding after a year or two they're starting to lay 300 to 500 little orange eggs underneath your rocks. The male will care for them after they've been laid, but they'll basically just hatch and be filtered throughout the aquarium. You need a laboratory to look after them, so you won't end up with hundreds of clownfish. They'll just filter out, and then the parents will actually start laying eggs again a few weeks later. Now, on top of all their unusual social dynamics and sometimes aggression, clownfish actually do display unusual swimming behaviors, so don't be startled, especially at night time when they're sleeping. If they're hanging up in the top corner, or they're new to the aquarium, they might be in the bottom front corner, or even lying sideways on the sand. That's actually part of their normal swimming behavior most of the time. Now, if you see a fish laboring in its gills, like it's panting its gills, it's laying on its side, or clearly in distress, that's when you need to get on top of it, because you want early signs of stress and try to nurse that clownfish back to health. Pairing them up with other fish in the aquarium, they're generally okay with other fish that aren't a similar body shape or occupy that part of the reef. So they're generally at the front of the reef, whereas fish like dottyback and cryptic fish that occupy the sand or the back of the reef, they'll be absolutely fine in the aquarium with the clownfish. You'll barely see them interact with each other. Now, with the cryptic fish, like the dottyback, we recommend that you only keep one in one of our small aquariums because they're better by themselves. You can actually put them together if you find a male and female, but it's too hard to find. So we just say one cryptic fish per an aquarium, and you can actually add them anytime. The clownfish will be okay with them even when they've established a pair, because they're not even in their space, they're in a different part of the reef. If your fish are displaying really aggressive behaviors, just remember that they always are bickering each other. But if they're literally looking like they're going to kill a fish, one thing you can try is to disrupt its habitat by moving the living blocks reef around. So move a coral, change some of the living blocks location so you can unclick them and click them into other places, and just try to disrupt that female or male that's getting dominant in the aquarium. But there's not a huge amount you can do about it. But it is a natural ecosystem, and these guys can be nasty to each other from time to time. They're individuals that have individual personalities. So just give it some time and keep trying to move the habitat around, and hopefully it settles down. If you have a sick fish or it's panting its gills rapidly, clearly under stress, either lying on the sand for long periods and not that unusual swimming behavior we're talking about before, then it's probably best to remove it from the aquarium. Now, we know this is sad, but if you keep it in the aquarium, it has the potential to pass on parasites and disease to the other fish, and of course if it dies it can pollute the water. So the best thing to do, as sad bad as it is to remove it from the aquarium and dispose of it. Clownfish and marine fish in general are incredibly awesome to watch. Their behaviors, their aggression, their social dynamics, their sex changes, it's really amazing. But just get used to what their natural behaviors are, and if you notice anything abnormal, then take action early.